Hi there, this is Chris, Chap in the Cap, Motor Legends. Today I'm going to broach the thorny subject of warranties on motorcycle clothing. I may address helmets more specifically in a future video. Now this could well be the dumbest video that I've ever attempted, and that's because nobody's going to want to hear the things that I have to say. Not the manufacturers, not the distributors, and certainly not motorcyclists. But that doesn't mean that there are not things that need to be said. And so, martyr as I am to the cause of public dissemination, I've taken it upon myself to talk about the things that nobody else is foolish enough to talk about. Now, nobody is more aware of the ill feeling that is generated when a motorcyclist warranty claim on an item of protective wear is turned down. Often the sense of outrage is palpable, and indeed almost every week I become privy to emails from otherwise perfectly respectable citizens who want to inform me of the depths of their heartfelt disdain. I can see the anger that is spread across the internet generated by those who have felt let down by the system. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, William Congreve wrote, but had motorcycles existed in the 17th century, he might well have had to revise his observation. All I can say is that in my time I've experienced the wrath of a number of scorned women, but few have shown willing to display the kind of emotion emanated by motorcyclists when they're informed that they may have to pay out of their own pocket to have a button sewn on, a strip of Velcro replaced or a zip repaired. Now this video is going to elicit hundreds of expressions of outrage, some bordering I'm sure on the blasphemous. Well, so be it. But my view is that a lot of the heat that is generated by this subject derives from simple misunderstandings, misconceptions and miscommunications. All I would say is that today I am to some degree just a messenger. There are those who might suggest that we at Motor Legends have a vested interest here, and I suppose I can see that. But this is not just a Motor Legends issue. Without doubt, over the years we have upset and disappointed many customers. This is always going to happen when you're dealing with motorcycle clothing warranty claims. But this is a much larger issue than us. And indeed, whatever the product, whatever the brand, whoever the retailer, you will find on the internet those who are adamant that the people who rejected their warranty claim are the spawn of the devil. That's part, I suppose, of the fun of being a motorcycle clothing retailer. Warranty claims are the single biggest cause of friction between motorcyclists and retailers. The same could be said of the relationships between retailers and their distributors and manufacturers. And for this, no one party is solely to blame. But by the same token, no party is totally blameless. Sometimes the end user, that is to say the motorcyclist, is misguided. Sometimes, dare I say, motorcyclists can be a little bit unreasonable. Some retailers are insensitive and defensive, and at times it feels to us as though the distributors don't give a damn because they never actually come into contact with motorcyclists. But the starting point for much of the dissatisfaction in this area is a misunderstanding about what a motorcycle clothing warranty actually includes. Now, you may have a warranty on an item of clothing for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or even 10 years, but that does not mean that if anything goes wrong with the product within that period, that your product will automatically be repaired or replaced for free. It is not, I have to tell you, the same as the warranty you get on a new motorcycle or on a new car. Read the small print, and what you will see is that all the manufacturer is warranting for the period of the warranty is its product against faulty manufacture. And every manufacturer's warranty, I can assure you, is the same. And it's no coincidence that this is how the manufacturers have worded their warranties. The truth is they're not really promising much. And importantly, they're excluding any problems that arise from what is known as wear and tear. Implicitly, what they are saying is if they have used a faulty component or if they have put their product together in a way that might be deemed substandard, then for the period of the warranty, they will undertake to repair or replace the item in question. Now, if a garment that you've bought is 1 or 2 years old, then most people would agree that if a zip broke or a popper popped off, that would indicate that the product has not done its job properly, it has not been put together in the way it should have been, and should therefore be sorted under warranty. But lots of people believe, or rather want to believe, that any issue that arises with their products within the warranty period is automatically the manufacturer's problem. Well, that's not the way the manufacturers see it. And that's not the way they have worded their warranties. A case perhaps, I suppose, of caveat emptor. In fact, where we get to is a position where the longer warranties are sometimes not worth the paper they're written on. After all, if there were a problem with a product when it came out of the factory, would one not have expected that to come to the surface within, I don't know, within a couple of years at most? Most of the things that happen after that, it could be argued, are the result of wear and tear. Wear and tear that's been caused by using the product. Of course, everybody expects to use their motorcycle gear. That's why they bought it. But you probably need to accept that the terms of the warranty on your gear are limited. And what's more, they're much more limited than you had originally imagined. From our perspective, the one thing that we'd always expect to be covered for the duration of the warranty is waterproofing. And we would never expect a manufacturer to attempt to wriggle out of this. The problem with waterproofing, however, is a different one, and we'll come back and discuss that later. Anyway, let's discuss wear and tear in a little bit greater detail, because whilst the manufacturers hide behind their small print, some motorcyclists can be a little bit unrealistic and unreasonable in their demands. Motorcycle gear, let's face it, can take a battering. And if you're riding thousands of miles a year, in all conditions, sometimes at high speed, your gear is going to suffer. Believe me, here at Motor Legends, we see some pretty knackered gear, the kind of gear that looks as though it should have been thrown out years ago. Yet customers will sometimes come to us with a warranty claim for a worn out strip of Velcro or a hole in a pocket that has arisen by carrying their keys in that pocket for the last 50,000 miles. Simply put, if something on your jacket, pant or whatever fails as a result of the wear that it's been subjected to, this is not warranty. Sometimes you will feel that something should not have worn out quite so quickly. And we understand this. It can be hugely disappointing when this happens. But the manufacturers are not warranting how well their products stand up to the strains and stresses of motorcycling. They are only warranting against faulty manufacture. There are two major sources of warranty claims. There's zips and there's waterproofing. Let's talk about the most contentious first, that's waterproofing. Now what you need to understand is that no manufacturer is ever going to guarantee that you'll never get wet wearing their gear. If you ride on a motorcycle for long enough in rain that's hard enough at a speed that is high enough, you will eventually get wet. If you cannot accept that, sell the motorcycle, because biking is not for you. Instead, buy a car or take the bus. If you ride a bike, getting wet now and again simply goes with the territory. What the manufacturers are warranting is that their membranes won't fail, that the rain will not pass through the membranes, and furthermore, that it won't reach you through the seams or the zips. But the issue with waterproofing is proving that if you do get wet, proving that the garment actually failed. And this is important because the two things don't necessarily go hand in hand. In fact, quite the opposite. 90% of claims for water ingress turn out not to be a fault with the garment. Of course, whenever anybody gets wet in their biking gear, it's always going to be the clothing that they blame. But the most common cause of getting wet in a motorcycle jacket is actually undone vent zips, especially when you're wearing laminated clothing. And that's because laminated clothing, when you open a zip, you've got direct-to-body venting. If water comes into the zip, it's going to go straight through to your body. And of course, the zip only has to be open, I don't know, a quarter of an inch for water to be able to seep in. And then, of course, there's the big hole at the neck. Water comes down the helmet, seeps into the jacket. That can make you feel as though the jacket is letting you down. You could be that you're wearing a cotton t-shirt. Now, cotton absorbs the sweat rather than wicking it, and that can make you feel as though you've got wet from the jacket. Again, it's just your sweat. You're perhaps not zipped in top to bottom. Water gets in underneath the jacket, wicks up the body, again making you feel as though somehow the jacket has failed. The problem could also be heated gloves or a heated seat, both of which will reverse the membrane and cause water to be sucked in, and so on and so forth. Overall, it's a tricky subject. All too often when there's a claim, the retailer will assume that when the customer comes in, will assume that the customer has jumped to the obvious but wrong conclusion about his jacket or pant, whilst the customer would assume that the retailer is trying to wriggle out of his responsibilities. And that's why we here at Motor Legends have developed our own procedure, without which I think there'd often be kind of an en-passe. Basically, if a customer thinks that something leaks, we will send it off to a Gore-approved testing laboratory. The cost is about £30 per garment, and it takes about a week to get the result back. But here's the deal. If the report shows that the garment leaks, we pick up that charge and we will have the garment either repaired or replaced. However, if the garment doesn't leak, the customer picks up the tab. And that sounds fair to us. It also removes or totally removes any ambiguity from the situation and normally brings about a very swift resolution. But as we've said before, even though the manufacturers will often find creative ways to reject warranty claims or to wriggle out of warranty claims, it's almost unheard of in our experience for the manufacturers to not stand by their waterproofing warranty. Once that is, of course, it can be established that the garment has actually failed. It's a whole different warranty situation if the membrane in your jacket or pant is a Gore-Tex one. Now, Gore-Tex membranes tend to be somewhat better. They have higher waterproofing scores, higher breathability scores, although it's true that you'll always pay a premium for a Gore-Tex product. Gore, though, offers an almost unbelievably effective warranty on garments that incorporate its membranes. Their membranes are guaranteed for life. Basically, if, having tested the garment, Gore finds that the membrane has failed or any part of the jacket has failed, so the zips or the seams, they will replace the garment, no questions asked. If the product is no longer available and you can prove the price that you originally paid, they will simply send you a check for that amount. And their systems for testing garments are better, more comprehensive and faster than anybody else's. What's more, it's totally free, although you do have to pay to send your garments to them. But there is one issue with the Gore guarantee, with the Gore warranty. Gore will only deal with you, they'll only deal with end users. They will not enter into any discussions with retailers. So people like us, unfortunately, cannot get involved. And this is potentially a tricky one because your relationship is with the retailer that you bought the gear from and not with Gore. So within the manufacturer's warranty period, you could legitimately refuse to deal with Gore. But if you go through your retailer, the item of clothing may have to go back to the manufacturer for testing. And in the case of Rucker, the manufacturer is based in Finland, so your jacket or pant could be gone for many, many weeks. Frankly, we reckon that if you've got a Gore-Tex garment, you'd always be best to deal directly with Gore. Your rights won't have been affected, so there's nothing to prevent you going back to your dealer afterwards if there's still some kind of problem. Now, all brands handle warranties in different ways. Some of them are helpful, some of them are not. But the fact is that none of the manufacturers are massively keen to pay out to replace gear. Gore's approach, however, is different and really quite amazing, especially given that if there is a problem with a garment, then the manufacturer, rather than Gore, will have probably been responsible for the problem in the first place. The situation is that Gore is determined to preserve or protect its reputation. If a brand works with Gore, puts a Gore-Tex membrane in its garments, it is Gore that dictates exactly how the product needs to be put together. And they do this in an attempt to make sure that their garments don't leak. But if your Gore-Tex garment does leak, they will simply, or normally, just replace it, because they will not accept a situation where customers are disappointed with their membranes. And Gore is as good as its word. We have customers who have had 15-year-old garment suits that have been replaced or refunded because they let water in. Whatever you think about the other brands' warranties, don't doubt Gore's. It is solid gold and it works. There's no warranty in the motorcycle clothing world that comes anywhere near close. When you buy an item of motorcycle apparel, your contractual relationship is with the retailer you bought it from, insofar as warranty is concerned. Yet the warranty comes solely from the manufacturer. So initially, you will deal with the retailer, and if things go horribly wrong in extremis, it is the retailer that you can take to court to get your satisfaction. But the decision about whether to repair a garment, refund you for it, replace it, or whether the claim should be rejected, that lies exclusively with the manufacturer or the manufacturer's chosen distributor. Retailers do not offer warranties. Manufacturers do. If an item of motorcycle wear develops a fault that can be attributed to faulty manufacture within the warranty period, the retailer / manufacturer will always have a right to repair the product. You, as the end user, do not have an automatic right to a refund or a replacement. Now, in the first 6 months, the law states that there is an assumption that the goods were indeed faulty when they left the factory. And that makes it very difficult for the retailer to reject any claim within that first 6-month period. In other words, legally the onus is on the retailer to prove that the fault wasn't there when you purchased the item. And that will be difficult to prove unless there are obvious signs of some kind of mechanical damage that might have happened, I don't know, in response to an accident. And if this is the case, then the retailer will be able to assert that the damage happened after you purchased the item and therefore faulty manufacturer was not the cause of the issue. After 6 months, by contrast, the onus is on the customer to prove that the problem was present when you purchase the item. This having been said, most companies, in my view, are not going to contest the validity of a proper warranty claim in that first few years. The 6-month thing only becomes an issue if you decide to take your retailer to court. If you have notified the retailer of this problem in the first 6 months, it is going to be difficult for the retailer to prove on the balance of probability that the manufacturing fault was not present when you purchased the item. But if things turn nasty after 6 months, then you as a consumer have to prove again on the balance of probability that the fault was there at the time of manufacture. As I've implied, inside the first few years of your ownership of a garment, most claims will go uncontested, provided it's clear to the retailer that a fault actually exists. The issue, therefore, or thereafter, will normally come down to an assessment as to whether the failure has come about as a result of a manufacturing fault or whether it's come about as a result of wear and tear. But you might suggest you bought the garment expecting it to be worn, and therefore you had expected it to last the full duration of the warranty. And we can understand that. On one level, it doesn't sound unreasonable. But that's not how the manufacturers see it. And it is they, after all, who issued the warranty. Warranties simply do not do what many people think they do. A warranty covers only manufacturing defects or faulty components that were faulty at the time of manufacture. So let's say you've got a jacket with a 5-year warranty. The zip fails after 3 years. Is that a manufacturing fault, or is the problem down to wear and tear? Such cases are rarely black and white, although the fact is, because we're talking about a situation that's after the first 6 months, if you went to court you would probably lose. Now, some manufacturers are softer than others. Some will give you the benefit of the doubt. But here's a tip. If when you submit your jacket or pant for a warranty claim, if it looks as though you've spent the last 3 years dragging it backwards through a hedge at 70 miles an hour, you should not be surprised perhaps if somebody deduces that the damage was down to wear and tear. You'll usually get a much better reception if your item of apparel looks as though it's been well looked after. And the moral of this tale is very simple. Look after your gear. Cleaning your gear regularly really has got to be a good investment. Mentioned earlier that zips are particularly contentious when it comes to warranty claims. Zips can break. It's easy to break a zip. And indeed, most zip warranty claims are for zips that have become damaged by the user. If you put the base of your jacket and on the zip under great pressure, you will loosen the runner. And when you're riding a bike, that's almost invariably the case. You're down here low, it gets tighter around the waist, you're putting a lot of pressure on the runner. What happens is over time that runner loosens and eventually reach a stage where the runner is failing to engage the teeth of the zip. And what will happen is one day you're riding along and the whole zip will burst open. That's often not a problem with the zip, it's a problem with the runner. Now, sometimes we can take that runner, we can replace the runner on some zips, we can tighten the runner, we can often fix it. But if we can't, then I'm afraid that's not really a warranty problem, it's just a breakage to the zip. But the most common way to damage a zip is to catch it in the lining. What happens is when a zip gets caught, people exert pressure to try to free the zip. But if you apply too much pressure to the zip or to the puller, you will break a tooth on the zip. Do this and you have broken the zip. Again, not warranty. To check whether you've done this, you simply run your finger along the edge of the zip. If at any point it is not smooth, that means that you have broken a tooth on the zip, not warranty. It's a shame perhaps, but it's down to you, not the manufacturer. You should know that if after 3 years your retailer agrees to replace a jacket that came with a 5-year warranty, you will only get a 2-year warranty on its replacement. Warranties start and continue from the original purchase date. And that's not anything to do with the motorcycle industry, that's a warranty thing, that's how warranties work. As a retailer, it is not only easy, but I suppose predictable that we would attempt to blame the manufacturers for the confusion and the misunderstandings that result from warranty claims. But we do believe that in playing the game of warranty period one-upmanship, the manufacturers have allowed marketing considerations to rule over common sense, integrity and fairness. Now, we work with a number of manufacturers, but our view is that any manufacturer who offers a warranty of more than, 2-3 years at the most, any manufacturer who offers a warranty of more than 3 years, they're guilty of deceiving customers and sowing the seeds of discontent. And that's because they're complicit in mismanaging expectations. No manufacturer is ever going to make the small print as clear as the headline proposition, But the reality is that many motorcyclists buy into a product with a 5, 6 or 10-year warranty in the belief that anything that goes wrong with the garment in that period, they're covered for. And as we've seen, they are simply not. Ironically, we find that most people are more than happy to pay for the repairs to the garment once the garment is out of warranty. But nobody is happy to do so if they believe they shouldn't have to. And that strikes at the heart of all of this discontent. The emotion surrounding warranty comes down to poor communications. And in a small way, I suppose that's what we're trying to address here. Would all parties be happier if warranties were just 2 or 3 years? Some bikers might think not, but nearly all the rancour and the ill feeling would disappear overnight in my view. We could move forward on the basis of 95% of claims being honoured automatically within that shorter warranty period, and then the industry could set up much better facilities for repairing garments that became faulty outside the warranty period, after the warranty period. And there's a point that needs to be made here. Almost anything can be repaired. Here at Motor Legends, our repairers can sew any part of a garment back together. They can replace zips, Velcro panels, poppers, and they can fix almost anything that might have led to a warranty claim in the first place. And we can do this cheaply and we can do it quickly. If we replace the main zip on a jacket, you'll normally get your jacket back within, within a couple of days. After all, it's not how it works in other fields. If a zip fails on a walking jacket or a sailing jacket a couple of years after you bought it, I don't think you normally tend to make a beeline back to the retailer you bought it from. You just seek out someone who can repair it. You want to get it sorted so you can continue using it. Now, I don't say all of this in the hope of having one day an easier life, although any motorcycle clothing retailer will tell you that warranty claims constitute the least pleasant aspect of their daily lives. But in my view, in our view, if warranties were made simpler and clearer and, of course, shorter, I personally think that everybody would be happier, even though right now, not everybody realises it. There will be people, I'm sure, who will say that this video is just about Motor Legends passing the buck and wanting an easier life. And I suppose I can see how people might come to that conclusion. Now, personally, I'm not sure that I am passing the buck, but would I like to remove the unnecessary aggravation from warranty claims? Unequivocally, yes. Truth be told, on our own account, we tend to resolve all minor warranty claims ourselves. If our repairers can fix something at relatively low cost, we just tend to get the job done. We don't bother talking to the distributors and the manufacturers. But there are things that require a more complex or expensive solution, and in such cases, there are procedures that we need to follow. We do, in truth, think that the manufacturers are somewhat responsible for many of the problems that we've been talking about here. And that's because they're not explicit about what their warranties actually include. Motorcyclists assume that they're getting a level of insurance that they're actually not getting. But the manufacturers, I'm afraid, are never going to make their warranties more comprehensive because the cost implications would simply be too great. And frankly, having seen just how abused and damaged gear can get when it's worn by somebody doing big miles, I can fully understand that. Should they, however, make the terms of their warranties clearer? Undoubtedly, yes, they should. But will they do so? Assuredly, no. Should the manufacturers offer shorter, more realistic and meaningful warranty periods? I certainly believe so. But no manufacturer is ever going to roll their warranty back, leaving open the possibility that a competitor will gazump them by offering a longer one. In fact, the direction of travel is actually towards longer warranties as manufacturers attempt to gain an edge over their competitors. There will always therefore continue to be situations where emotions become raised. Now, we've tried to provide a little context here, but the problem is that motorcyclists, often being alpha sorts, will fight to the death to avoid having to pay out of their pockets for a new popper if they think they shouldn't have to. But we have to believe that most retailers are like us. We are here to help. We like to help customers, and we like to because we hope that if we do help them, they will reward us with their future custom. But whoever is the cause of the problems that we've been talking about here, motorcyclists do occasionally need to be more realistic. Riding at 70 miles an hour in all weathers puts an immense strain on your motorcycle wear. Not everything that goes wrong with a motorcycle garment is somebody else's fault. Sometimes you just have to take it on the chin. Gear wears out. It gets damaged. It is nobody's fault. Shit happens. Except that sometimes what happens to your gear is not the manufacturer's fault. It is not the manufacturer's problem. Not every crisis, if one can call a faulty motorcycle garment a crisis, not every crisis needs to become a drama. What we all want is simply to get back on the road. If I was some kind of politician, right now I'd be saying something like, we're here to encourage a debate. Well, my view is there's not going to be a debate. The nature of warranties is not going to change, and so it's incumbent upon all of us just to muddle through as best we can, in the knowledge that ultimately it's the manufacturers who hold the trump card.